Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss with the third topic of macroprocessor, that is machine independent macroprocessor feature. Before this, we have discussed the introduction to macroprocessor, the functions of macroprocessor, how macroprocessor will perform its function, how it will work in one pass and two pass. Now we will discuss the features of machine independent macroprocessor. So these are the four features that we will discuss in the lecture, that is concatenation of macro parameter, generation of unique labels, conditional macro expansion, and keyword macro parameter. So first we will discuss the concatenation of macro parameter. And most microprocessors allows the parameter that we used with macro definition, okay, that parameter to be concatenated with other character strings inside macro definition. Means this parameter that we will use here, that can now be concatenated with some string inside the macro definition. So for this, we will take one example. Suppose one macro code is there, like this. One macro code is here that will be used to find the sum. Okay. Now, this macro definition, okay, will receive one argument. Okay. And that argument, if you will see, ID is being written 4 times. Okay. And when this macro definition will be called, sum is the name of macro and it will be called by passing parameter a. So id will be replaced with a, and wherever id is there, like here or 4 times, that will be replaced by a. So we will, that will be converted into xa1, xa2, xa3, xas. Okay, so instead of id, now a will be placed. That means the parameter that macro received, that will be concatenated with x1, x2, x3 or xs. Okay, the parameter a is received and that parameter will get connected with these already defined string x and 1, x2, x3, xs. Later on, the same code will be used here, like beta will be passed to this same macro, and instead of id, now beta will occur, like x beta 1, x beta 2, x beta 3, and x beta s. Okay, so here again beta will be get connected with x1, x2, x3, xs, already defined string. Beta will get connected with this. Now, how beta and a will get connected? Using this ampersand and arrow symbol. Means whatever the parameter is written here, that will get connected with this string. How? Using this ampersand and arrow. If we will put ampersand and arrow, that means this character, this argument will get connected with the remaining string. So in this way, we are concatenating this parameter. Okay, so that is concatenation of macro parameters. And this will be used when same macro code can be used for this parameter also and this beta parameter also. Okay, if you remember in the previous programs, how we are calling this code, we are passing, when we are calling here sum, we are writing here xa1, xa2, xa3, like that. And here also we are doing like that. But now in that way we will do. Okay, so this is the concatenation, and these two symbols will be used to concatenate. Second is the generation of unique labels. And if you remember, we have discussed in previous lecture that it is not allowed. It is not allowed that we can put any label inside macro definition. Assembler will not allow to put any label inside the definition of macro. So if we will put, and when that macro will be replaced with a different macro calls, that label will keep on replacing and it will be copied more than one time, and that thing assembler will not allow. Assembler will not allow to keep putting the same label more than once. Okay, so for this thing is not allowed that we can use the label inside the macro definition. Instead, we can use this technique, we can use this generation of unique label. How? Like if inside the macro, this is used, that loop. Okay, when macro will be called first time, this see a unique label can be put, like it will start from a and after a will be put. Again when this macro will be called, a macro which is having this statement will be called, then this statement will become a, means in same macro, but inside the second letter will become b. So we will keep on generating the new label when same macro will be called every time. So then that problem will not occur that same label is keep on copying everywhere. So this is the generation of unique label. During macro expansion, whatever this symbol, like with the dollar, anything is will be there in macro expansion, that will be replaced with some letters. Okay, so sequence should be maintained like AA, AB. If third time macro will be called, then it will become AC. In that way, it keep on going whenever this will be called. Okay, so this is the generation of labels, unique labels. Now see here, this is our macro, read buffer. Okay, and inside that this label is being used. See, otherwise simple instructions are there. Till the end of macro, simple instructions are there. But there, one loop label is used, one exit label is used. But previously we have discussed we can't put the labels. So how we can resolve this? See, whenever this will be called, this will become AA loop, AA exit. Further, when it will be called, it will become AB, AB. Okay, so that is generation of unique labels. Whenever the macro will be called and macro will have any labels, they will be getting new code. So now we have discussed the two features. The third one is conditional macro expansion. Means based on some conditional, we will expand the macro. There are application of macro processors that are not related to assemblers or assembler programming. These conditional macro expansion, these are not related to assembler. Okay, so we can use if else and if concept. If we will put if particular condition met, then expansion will be done, otherwise expansion of macro will not be done. Okay, so that is if else and if code will be there in our code, in our macro code or in our program. If that condition will become true, we will expand the macro, otherwise expansion will not be. Now, one thing is macro time variables. What are macro time variables? Macro time variables can be used to store the working values during macro expansions. Means some values when our macro is getting expanded, then some variable can be used to store the working values. and those variables are called macro time. Means when macro is getting expanded, at that time some variable will be set. So those variables are called macro time variable, and they will be set using set statement. Okay, initialize by default all the macro time variable will be set to 0, but later on using set statement we can set the values. Okay, so one example is the some one variable and it will be set to 1. So any symbol that begin with the character ampersand, and that is not a macro parameter. If you will see in the macro definition, we mostly put ampersand with macros parameter. So other than macro parameter, if you will say any data item where ampersand is being used, okay, other than macro parameter, if anywhere ampersand is being used, that means that data item is a macro time variable. Okay, so macro time variable are initialized to 0. Macro time variables can be changed with their values during using set opcode. So when we are working with conditional macro expansion, okay, so see here, now this is the whole macro definition. One read buffer macro is here. Okay, read buffer macro, it will receive 5 parameters, that is input device, buffer, read, record length, EOR, end of record, and what will be the maximum length. Okay, so first, if a block is here, if whatever the value these macro will receive, in that we are checking the end of record. If end of record not equal to blank, means if something is there, okay, so we will move to the further functionality. So we will set one macro time variable to 1, that is erect set to 1, and then and if. Okay, this is one if block, one conditional block. Later on, some statements are there, clear X, clear A. Again, we will check the condition that if eroc is equal to 1, means if we come here, only then eroc is set to 1. So we will check here if eroc is set to 1, then further functionality will be done. Eroc is given here. Okay, so further functionality and then and. So this is second if block inside macro. Later on, we will again check if maximum length, that this maximum length, if it is equal to empty, means if maximum length is not given to this macro, then by default what length will be decided? 4096. Okay, maximum length will be set 4096. Else if maximum length is given, that maximum length value will be given to LDT statement, and then again and if. Okay, then this we have discussed. Okay, later on again, if eroc equal to 1, we will perform some statement. We will compare A and S, and then exit, then and if. Okay, so here we have set some if conditions. Okay, so these are safe. These are the unique labels that we have created. Okay, so exit means we will come here, we will record, we will save our record length, and then our macro will end. Okay, means here after comparison, okay, exit will be stored, and exit means we will come to this label, and this will stay save the record length, and then our macro will get end. Now the same macro that we have discussed in the previous slide. Okay, this macro will be given different parameters. Okay, one is this, later on this, in next slide also. So see F3, if you remember the first parameter, if you will see, that is input device. Okay, that is here input device. Input device, second is buffer, record length, end of record, and maximum length. So accordingly, input device, buffer, record length, end of record, and maximum length. So this 04 will be given to this set for end of the end of record character, means where our record will get end. Okay, 2048 will be the maximum length, and if you remember in the previous code 2048 will be given to LDT, and if 2048 will not be given, by default what value will be given, that is 4096. Okay, and then see here this code is called this whole code is called. Okay, so instead of this loop, now AA loop is being occurred. Wherever loop is there, AA loop is occurred. Okay, F3 is our device, so here F3. Okay, F3, the test input device, read character from that device. Okay, so in this way, whatever the parameter these macro will receive, that will be given to our statements. Okay, and then in this way our macro will work. Now again this macro will be called. Okay, this macro will be called. Here the first argument is given, second argument is given, third argument is given, but fourth argument is not given. So if the fourth or some argument is not given, we have to put blank. We have to put blank because we are using positional concept, positional parameter substitution. So the position should be matched. Whatever the parameter will be passed in macro call, that should match with the position of the corresponding parameters in macro definition. So here we will left blank. Okay, here also now this is our input device. So test input device OE, then store ring character in buffer. So that buffer here, okay, the length of our record, that is here, in that length will be stored, and 80 will be given to set the maximum record length. Okay, so all the parameters will be used here. What we have not received here, the end of character. And if you will see the previous code, if and or EOR is not equal to 0, then EROC is set to n. But now our EOR is empty, so EROC will not set to 1 here. Okay, because here EOR is not given, and in that case EROC will not set to 1. Okay, again these parameters are being given, and in that f1 is the first parameter is the buffer parameter is there, record length is there, end of record is there, but maximum length is not there. Okay, so here if you see, if you remember in the main code, if maximum length here is not there, means if maximum length value is not there, LDT will by default set to 4096. So here LDT is set to 4096. Okay, and you see that this main macro is called 3 times. So first time here is AA for both the label, second time it is AB for both the labels, and third time AC for the macro labels. Okay, so other parameters are given. F1 will be given to test input device, that is test device. Okay, buffer will be given to store the values, store like this X. Record length variable will be used to record the length, store the length. of record, and 04 will be the set the end of character. So in this way our macro will be keep on called, but here you can see the difference, the use of unique labels every time macro will get called. And one more thing, like in between of parameter is not received, you have to put a blank space and two commas. Okay, so these are the things that you have to remember. So the next we will discuss in our next lecture. Thank you.